Alright, good morning. This is like take 9 at this point. But we're going to do it, doggone it, because it's what we do. I'm hoping there's sound now, so if you are there and can see this and can give me a sound check, whew, man, that is good to hear. I'm glad the sound works. I'm sure it doesn't sound super good. It's not my favorite microphone set, but hello, good morning. Today is Wednesday, March 23rd, and we're going to talk about some school safety stuff, prom. We're going to answer the questions on the Google form, and as always, if you have any questions, go ahead and drop those in the chat. My blood pressure is like 75 points lower just immediately. Okay, so the first thing is we've started a couple times. It's not great. It's school safety stuff, and it goes like this. School safety is the #1 priority for anybody who works in a school in the state of North Carolina. In fact, North Carolina, in the section of state law that defines the duties of a teacher, actually puts safety and supervision as #1. Teaching the content is letter D, actually. So safety and supervision is letter A. Teaching is letter D. There's some stuff in the middle about first aid and health and well-being. So in light of that, and in the spirit of making sure that Millbrook remains safe for all, we need to go over a thing that's been happening the last few weeks. You may have seen some stuff in the news. I know some other high schools have shared this with parents. We have seen multiple students bring Orbeez guns, splatter guns, to campus. They are, I believe they're battery powered, and they shoot these little gel beads. Orbeez are like a little tiny thing you can get, you can soak in water, and they kind of expand. Mark Rober's got a video on YouTube where he filled a pool with them once, the Orbeez pool. You can check that video out. But now they have a gun that shoots these little guys, and what is important is the language of, so this is from the district's student due process manual, and specifically this has to do with a level 3 offense. There's only 4 levels. Level 3 is a big deal. Can result in a suspension up to a recommendation for long term. No student shall possess, handle, or transmit any weapon or facsimile of a weapon. Then there's some more language. But in this case, these Orbeez guns would fall into the facsimile of a weapon. It becomes more and more tricky as kids start firing them at other vehicles and at their friends in the parking lot. So please note that a facsimile of a weapon, there's a whole paragraph that defines what a weapon is. But these clearly meet the definition of facsimile of a weapon. They do have projectiles. They can injure kids. They can damage vehicles. And they cannot come onto campus. Your student cannot have it in their car. They cannot carry it around and give it to another friend in the parking lot. It has got to stay outside of the fences of Millbrook High School, full stop. So, there's that. I love you all. I want everybody to be safe. Orbeez guns, splatter guns, gotta go. Mr. Flowers is actually going to jump in now that I had enough time to buffer all this because I couldn't make anything work. Mr. Flowers is going to join us to talk about ROTC.
All right, good morning, Facebook Live. But before I get started, I want to take this time out to wish Mr. Patton a very happy birthday. Happy birthday, Mr. Patton.
Thank you. I'm going to go get my coffee now.
This Saturday, starting at 8 a.m., we will host our very first JROTC competition. If you've never been to a JROTC competition, they're very fun to watch. We have several things going on. One of them will be what's known as the Radar Challenge, and it's kids doing different activities. We have our confidence course, so the kids will be going through the confidence course. You'll have some kids getting graded on drilling ceremony. It's just a fun event to watch. There will be 6 schools here that we're hosting, so if you have time this Saturday, come out at 8 o'clock, support the JROTC program. They would love to see you. Get the maniacs out there. They would love to have the maniacs out there supporting them and cheering them on. So The event will go on until about 3 o'clock. So if you have time, definitely come out there and give ROTC some love. All right. And once again, happy birthday again, Mr. Patton.
As you said that, I was like, I'm going to get my coffee. Natasha Wilson brought me my coffee. It's amazing.
Yes, she did.
Hey, that cat's out of the bag. I wasn't going to bring it up. But here we are. Thank you so much. Yes, birthdays are fun. I have had a lot of esoteric dialogue about why is this happening on my birthday, but here we are. And we're off and running, so that's awesome. Okay, so next up, prom. We've talked about prom. You're used to the last few weeks hearing me talk about be safe, don't do this, we're going to do that, because normally I am a prom Grinch. But we are super excited to have prom again. It's been a couple years. Miss Janeski does an incredible job of wrangling together a bunch of people, a bunch of details, contracts, to make prom a really stunning event every year. We are running into a snag this year for the first time. Historically, we work with a company to provide decorations and things for prom. And in the past, part of that contract has included them bringing the decor and setting it up for us. For a number of reasons, they can't do that this year, nor do they have a truck that we can use. We tentatively have one school family who has access to a truck, but there's some logistics involved in using that vehicle because the company that owns it and liability, and we 300% understand that. So I'm going to say the need here, and if anyone out there has any ideas or solutions that might be able to help move us closer to making this happen, it would be greatly appreciated. The company has told us, and then we had the measure, and they confirmed that we need to plan on 2 20-foot box trucks. So right now, tentatively, we have access to one 24-foot box truck. And even then, there's some logistics that make it weird. Because of when the pickup time is and when the company is open, we have to pick the decorations up Friday afternoon. We have to bring them to school. We'll park the trucks up against the building and lock them. On Saturday morning, we'll pick them up, drive them to Northridge, unload and set up. Saturday after prom, we'll reload all that, bring it back to the school, lock everything up until Monday. And then on Monday, we'll take it all back to the rental company. So as you can see, the idea of renting a truck Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday can get expensive, especially at that size, especially considering we're trying to spend all the money on stuff that like really directly impacts kids. I'm super hype. I'm pretty sure we're working on like a nice photo booth that actually prints the pictures. The food is always really good. Ms. Janeski does an amazing job of picking out decor that really helps make just a different ambiance. If you've ever gotten a chance to like drop your kids off, you see like, oh, this is really nice. So if anybody out there happens to have any ideas or connections with like box truck fleet management or something like that, we could use some help for sure. Feel free to email me, cpatton2@wcpss.net, if you have an idea or if you have any proposals that might help. We are certainly all ears on that. We just want to make sure we can have a good time for all the kiddos. Cool deal. School safety prom, weekly updates. Let's see, it's 3:23. So last week was the 17th. No, it was the 16th. I hear that all current classes for driver's ed are full. That April 1st is the sign up for summer classes. Does this cost? How do you sign up, and where did you find this information? Will this take an elective spot? What time frame are the classes usually, and who do I get in contact with about driver's ed? This is really great. This is a bunch of questions right in a row. So we're going to knock them all out. Yes, our understanding is that April 1st is when signups for summer classes will open. They do not cost. You will sign up on the Jordan Driving School website. We found that information because one of Jordan Driving School's instructors happens to be a teacher here as well, so she's able to give us like really quick, real-time information. This is not a class that you take here during the day, so it doesn't take a spot in your schedule at all. The classes are in the afternoon, after school. If somebody in the chat can answer this question, which is what are the time frame? I actually don't even know how long driver's ed classes are anymore. When I took driver's ed, they had that test out option where you could take a test on the first day or the second day and then not have to take the rest of the class. So I'm a huge nerd. I obviously read the book and then didn't take the class because I passed that test. So I don't know how long the class is. If somebody can just pop in the chat, like this is roughly how long my kid was in class. But you'll register for class sometime 6 weeks out. If you need to get in touch with somebody, you're going to email millbrookdrivered@gmail.com. Again, that's millbrookdrivered, all squished together, @gmail.com. I think that covered all that. Okie dokie. This is a good question. How are the COVID cases at Millbrook with people taking off their masks? I'm going to ask that one first. The COVID cases at Millbrook are, oddly enough, it seems quieter. I would have to ask Mr. Shipp, to be fair. Some of that is hard to know because the requirements for us to contact trace and to quarantine after an exposure have changed drastically. So we just don't see and have a sense of what all might be going on. At this point, it's basically like, hey, if you don't feel well, stay home. And so I feel like we're definitely still seeing staff have to stay home when they don't feel well, or if they have a child at home that doesn't feel well. But in general, I know we're taking fewer students to the COVID care center with symptoms. In general, I mean, early on, when students came back last spring, we were taking 5, 6, 8 kids a day, and now we're taking 1 or 2 a day. Some days we don't take any, knock on wood. But who knows what's out there? I know we're watching Europe right now. Okay, so in the summer, we're going to go back to driver's ed for a second. In the summer, driver's ed is an entire week, and they test on Friday. It was 1 week, 6 hours a day. It was over Zoom last summer. I do think it's going to be back in person this year. It's 30 hours of class, and then you have to do 6 hours behind the wheel. And there does seem to be quite a delay between taking the class and being registered to drive. We've seen that right now. The waiting line is about 6 months. It's almost as long as the line for Rise of the Resistance at Disney's Hollywood Studios. As always, thank you to all the parents who really do all the work here and have the answers, because I mostly don't. My daughter says that many people are vaping in the school bathrooms, as well as rumors of a trash can being lit on fire from people smoking. I know this is probably typical high school things, but do you know if any of this is true, and if there's any way to stop it? So, yeah, let's just go through this. Yes, many kids are vaping in the school bathrooms. I would say, I don't know, we probably confiscate 10, 12, 15 vapes a week. Easy. And then there was a situation, I think it was last semester, I don't quite remember, it might have been earlier this semester. There was a trash can that was lit on fire outside the auditorium. Oddly enough, we have a retired firefighter who has been a very, very great long-term sub for us. He's just the nicest guy who shows up every day with a smile, and he had a sense that something was wrong. Before the fire alarm even went off, he managed to go out, see what was going on, get a fire extinguisher, and put it out and drag it outside. So shout out to Mr. Pearson. But yes, that did happen. We got everybody out. Nobody was injured. I think we were back inside within 15 or 18 minutes, which, considering it was not a drill, is pretty fast. So yeah, some of that is typical high school things. We've seen a lot less smoking, like actual smoke, in bathrooms since the advent of vapes, but they are very prevalent, especially now that there's like a vape shop within walking distance of the school. So all it takes is like a student who's 18 goes down there and buys 5 or 6 at lunch and then comes back and sells them to kids at a markup. It's just hard to track that because we don't have the manpower to go watch kids off campus during lunch. So yeah, not great answers. I can tell you one of the big issues is, so we had, the fire alarm was set off last week or the week before on the 3rd floor. And I've got really great cameras outside the bathrooms. Obviously, we're not going to put cameras inside the bathrooms for any million number of reasons. But so when the fire alarm goes off, we see that the alarm was set in the boys' bathroom on the 3rd floor. So it's easy to watch and see who runs out of the bathroom. And to set the fire alarm off, it takes not an insubstantial amount of smoke or water vapor. Our detectors detect both smoke and water vapor. So you can set it off with a vape. If you're not careful, we'll interview 4 or 5 kids who are all in the bathroom and nobody will see anything. So it just is kind of hard to chase. We feel like we're chasing our tails sometimes. The biggest help would be if your kids see something, just tell an administrator. There's a lot we can do if we can get some info. How do I find the Millbrook newsletter? I'm going to assume that you mean the weekly message for families. If you mean something else, please email me, cpatten2@wcpss.net. The weekly newsletter can be found in a few places. First, we'd prefer to have you on the list so it gets emailed directly to you. If not, I post it every weekend at 3 p.m. If you go to the website, under Our School, there's a weekly principals message link, and you can see the running list of weekly principals messages back. Let's see how far back we can see. Oh boy. 2017, 2018, I mean, they're all here. We've certainly changed formats over time, but you can get them there on the website, and then also on the homepage of the website, if you scroll down to the Wildcat tweets, we actually keep all the Millbrook Magnet tweets on there. It probably won't take more than 2 or 3 posts down to find the weekly message, although I can't believe nobody called me out on this. I didn't actually put a link on there this past weekend. I was just so excited about the corgi and the flowers that I forgot to Control-V the link into the tweet. My bad. That's not a great look. What is the last day that kids can make a change in Power School for their schedule next year? I actually don't know that kids can do that in their Power School at this point anymore, but they should certainly feel comfortable reaching out to their counselors until June 1st. If you have a schedule change you want to make June 1st. Now, later than that, we will usually accept requests to increase rigor. Let's say you signed up for an honors class now, and you get to May and you realize, man, I've been doing really well. Maybe I should have taken the AP class instead. Like, we'll hear that change later if you want to move from honors to AP. We will not drop rigor. And so what we mean by that is, if you sign up for AP now, and you get a week into the school year and you're like, oh, I didn't do the summer project and this is all really hard, we're not going to change your schedule. We have a huge support network here to ensure that you can get the experience you need. But that's kind of how that works. That's a great question. What is needed to create a new club for next year? We had this conversation in the hallway. That's a pretty cool full circle thing. You told me you were going to put it in here. So in this case, this student is looking at an ultimate frisbee club. If your student is interested in starting a club, the first thing they need to do is approach a teacher about being an advisor. That tends to be the biggest hurdle, because it does take time and organization, and there's some liability on the teacher. So students need to work with a teacher. It doesn't always have to be a teacher that teaches a specific thing or is adjacent to it. Shout out to Miss Wells, our Spanish teacher, who had been the advisor for our Fright Club, who would get together monthly and watch a horror movie. They even actually had a paranormal research team come out to the building, and they did some videotaping and audio recording in the theater and in the gym, and it was all very spooky. I had to come lock the building up, and I was like, I'm not going in there alone. So anyway, that's the first key. There is an application process. You will fill out the application for that club, you can email Miss Wilson at nwilson5 to get that information, and those need to be turned in early in the year. We do have a cutoff. I don't know exactly what it is. It's usually pretty early, like October, that we stop accepting new club applications. And part of that is because we like to publish what we have, and it takes time for us to validate and all that stuff. So anyway, definitely feel free to sign up for a new club or to try and start a new club, but work with a teacher to have that advisor first. That's going to be really important. How do I sign up for student... Ooh, a question literally just came in. I watched it in real time. How do I sign up for student body elections in April? What roles will be voted on? And is it only for students in student council or currently in student government? If not this year, how can I get involved next year? This is an outstanding question. Yes, elections will happen in April, and you can run for anything, I believe. There might be some limitations on, like, student body president. You have to be a rising senior. I'm not totally sure. The best way to have these questions answered is to email Ms. Haddock, LaShonda Haddock, at LHADDOCK@WCPSS.net. lhaddock@WCPSS.net. She is, or you can email Ms. Delp, JDELP, Jamie Delp, at WCPSS.net. They are the student council advisors. We call student body or student councils MEB, the Millbrook Executive Board, and then we have class councils as well. But feel free to reach out to either of them and ask exactly those questions. They will know the entire process and be able to give you the best answers. As that time gets closer, I will ensure that I try and get her on the show to actually talk about that, because I'm sure parents want to be able to support their kids in that process as well. What is a valedictorian and salutatorian? So I'm going to read the whole thing. What is a valedictorian and a salutatorian? What were the highest grades of these two people last year? What were their genders? And what do these two positions look like for Millbrook? So the valedictorian and salutatorian are how we used to do certain academic honors for the graduating class. The valedictorian was the student with the highest grade point average, and the salutatorian was the student with the second highest grade point average. In 2017 or 18, in 2017 or 2018, Wake County as a whole moved from the valedictorian, salutatorian, which you may have also heard as the Val-Sal process, to what is called Latin Honors. And Latin Honors just means for any student at this level, you get this honor. At any student at the next level down, it's this. So you may, in college, you hear it magna cum laude, summa cum laude, cum laude. Dr. Gentili, if you're hearing this and I said it totally wrong, I'm so sorry. I have to ask Dr. Gentili every year to make sure I'm saying it right. But we don't do valedictorian and salutatorian anymore. Over the years, it has been a wide variety of youngins. We've had girls and guys. I feel like probably a few more girls than guys. And let me make sure I get all the things. And so we don't have that anymore. So I can't really ask or answer the last part of that because we don't have a Val-Sal anymore. We just do Latin honors at those different levels. If a teacher takes students out of school for the day, will that teacher communicate with other teachers and make sure the absence is excused? They absolutely should. I know this time of year, like band had to leave on Monday, so Mr. Payne had to send a list. These students will be out today. They're responsible for any missed work, but please mark them present. And then those teachers will also send a follow-up saying, oh, actually, this person wasn't with us, so if you have them, mark them absent. But as you can imagine, in a school this large with lots of teams, athletics leaving early, arts doing some stuff, we've got some internal reasons kids might get pulled out of class, sometimes that gets missed. So if you have a situation where you were out of class for a school event and your teacher marked you absent, the first thing is just check with that teacher. If that teacher's like, I need to hear something from your advisor or coach, then just have the advisor or coach email and get that sorted out. Worst case scenario, email your counselor and administrator. Honestly, probably email your administrator. It'll be easier to track down that way, but we can get that taken care of for sure. Are the Latin honors announced at the actual graduation, or is it just listed in the program? We don't announce it at graduation. Kids know before graduation, I believe, what honors they are going to get. But no, at graduation, I say this having, me, Mr. Flowers, and Mr. Ship have read names for the last couple years, and it is just name, trying to push 550 kids across the stage, because we got to do the whole thing in an hour. Miss King actually prefers to do it in about 50 minutes, which is not a little undertaking. But no, we don't announce them, and I also don't think we have students stand up for that. I might not be 100% right about that, because honestly, it's been a couple years since we've had a big traditional graduation. But that is an excellent question, and we can absolutely get that answered if you would like to know. I haven't seen a ceremony script, but I can work on that. Good morning. Is there a lost and found at school somewhere? Yes, there absolutely is. The best way to get the lost and found is to come to the main office and ask Miss Peak if you can look in the lost and found, which we keep behind a little screen over here. Sometimes things are kept in guest services with Miss Cooper, so you can also go to the front window where Miss Cooper is and say, hey, I'm looking for this. But most of the lost and found stuff lately that I've seen has been up here in the main office. If it's electronics, it's definitely up here in the main office if we have it. When will students get their final schedules for next year, and when will they be able to make changes if needed? So students will get their final schedule for next year. Freshmen will get it at CATS camp. Seniors will get it at senior kickoff. That's all in August. So schedules should be visible to students in August. And again, changes at that point are very limited. If you get scheduled in a class accidentally that you have already taken, we will obviously reschedule you. If you get scheduled for a class that you failed and you're in it with the same teacher, we will allow you to change teachers. If you would like to make the jump from an honors to an AP class or from an academic to an honors class, we'll also honor that change. But like if you get to August and you're like, I really changed my mind and I don't want to be in AP World, it's going to be too late at that point. So now is the time to really evaluate what your load looks like, what you're taking, and the counselors are really great at having that conversation with you, so don't be afraid to reach out to them for any of that info. Alrighty, what are the guidelines for school club fundraisers on campus? What type of fundraisers are allowed and what are the limits? Okay. This can get a little complicated. Yes, Ms. Francis, that's still one of my favorite stories from the last several years. Before I dive into fundraisers, I'm going to check this next question. Do you know if there will be a summer school in Wake County? Yes, there will be summer school in Wake County. Can students take summer school classes at a high school different than the high school they attend? Yes, that sometimes happens. What I can tell you is this. If you are taking a class to get ahead, seats for that are going to be incredibly limited if they are even available. The overwhelming majority of funding available to us for summer school is earmarked for students who are trying to recover and make big learning leaps from COVID. So that's, if you have something in mind where you're trying to take summer school to get ahead, you need to ask your counselor now. The counselor is going to tell you, we don't know yet, because we don't know yet. We won't know until mid to late April what summer school might start to look like. But that's a conversation to start now and then to keep having over the next month or so, for sure. Okay, so fundraisers. It is different for school organizations and booster organizations in some ways. And then there are some rules that apply to everybody all the time. It doesn't matter. So let's say that we had a club, and that club was doing a fundraiser. As a school-based organization, they can, I'm 99% sure that it's one fundraiser a year. In fact, watch this is going to be awesome. Hey, Miss Wilson. I was wondering if for my birthday you had a few minutes to come answer some questions on Facebook Live. I'll do all the talking, but you have the answers and I don't. Awesome. Okay, thanks. Miss Wilson is also, she supervises all of our fundraising stuff here at school. So I'm going to bring her over here so that I can make sure that I answer these the right way. I just don't want to give anybody the wrong information. Whoa, I just, my email. I haven't opened email yet today. And the little number that just popped up is very high. I am going to, since we were late today because of all the technical stuff, I am going to go ahead and do a last call for questions. So we're going to answer all of the fundraising questions, but if you have any other questions, go ahead and please put those in the chat. Thank you all for the birthday love. Thank you, Dwayne Flowers, for letting the cat out of the bag on that one. Okay, so Ms. Wilson, I'm going to read you the whole question, and then I'm going to talk and say things that I think are right, and you can correct me.
Absolutely.
The question is, what are the guidelines for school club fundraisers on campus? Example, like what type of fundraisers are allowed, and what are the limits, when/how. So I've said that school-based organizations, not booster organizations, are limited to one fundraiser a year.
One school-wide one.
One school-wide fundraiser a year.
That means all the clubs can get together and do one school-wide one.
So the school is limited to one school-wide fundraiser a year.
Mm-hmm.
Can an individual club do their own?
No.
No.
An individual
Okay.
class, like freshman class can
Yeah.
do one, sophomore class can
Okay.
do one. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so, interesting.
Yeah. Now, if it's a booster, they can.
Yeah, boosters can do a lot of other things. I'll talk about what boosters need to be careful of in a minute. But for student-based organizations, honestly, the best bet is going to have the advisor contact Ms. Wilson to check on all this stuff. But there are limitations to how, like, what qualifies as a school-wide fundraiser, because the school is limited on what we can do and how many we can do. In general, don't sell donuts on campus. I know that was a bit, right? Like, that was a big thing.
Yeah.
I remember when I was in high school, like, at least once every other month, some group was selling whole boxes of Krispy Kreme donuts at the carpool line. And it was super rad. I love being a senior and, like, getting my whole box of donuts and walking into anatomy and physiology.
But that's time constraints with the cafeteria.
Yeah, and now, so since 2000, I think it was like 2010 or 12, there are some new federal requirements in place regarding the cafeteria and what can and cannot be sold on campus. And it has to do with when the hours are. If you are really interested in something like that, please contact Ms. Wilson or myself so that we can get you in touch and talk through that, because it's really specific about what, when, and how. But in general, school clubs can probably do one, but they need to talk to Ms. Wilson because there are definitely some limitations there. Now, when it comes to boosters, it's very similar. You got to be very careful about the food thing. Basically, from 30 minutes before school starts until an hour 30 minutes after? An hour?
After school ends.
Okay.
30 before and 30 after.
Yeah, so from 6:45 until 3, you can't sell food or anything like that on campus. And right now, because of COVID, you can't do things like spaghetti dinners. And I actually think that went out of Wake County a long time ago.
Yeah, I think so.
When I was a band director my first couple years in a small county out west, like, man, we could borrow a church fellowship hall and tell everybody to come eat spaghetti at $7 a plate and make some money. That does not work the same way here because of safety and things like that, like the ability for us to cook and provide food. It gets tricky. As a former band director, had to do lots of fundraising. I am always very cautious with my arts groups about what types of fundraisers they're doing. You do need to be careful because there's lots of companies that make it seem really good on the front end, but what they do is they make you buy a bunch. Like, yes, you might get a lot of margin for the product, but what they do is they make you buy it outright up front, and if you don't sell it, you're stuck with a bunch of that stuff. And I've seen lots of organizations lose money in a variety of ways. In general, if your club or activity is interested in a fundraiser, your first stop needs to be the advisor, and their first stop needs to be Ms. Wilson, or some other administrator who will then talk to Ms. Wilson. That's really the name of the game when it comes to fundraisers. Is that about right? Feel good about?
Very accurate.
Okay.
Yes, that's right.
Food on campus is hard. We have, like, the chorus boosters sold these things called butter braids, so they come frozen. And because it's not consumable at that time, I think they're allowed to pre-order and then deliver, but they're not actually selling food to be consumed here.
Right.
But yeah, again, with the donuts, right, because it's consumable in the moment, you can't sell them for later. It won't work that way. I know bands and lots of other organizations do fruit sales. If any of you have been around Raleigh for a long time, you know about the Broughton Band fruit sale. I'll never forget the first time I saw that in the early 2000s. They had to rent out a whole like warehouse that trucks could pull into because they filled up 7 or 8 semis of fruit. It was insane what they were doing. The grapefruits were real good though. And then you get old and you have heart medication. You can't eat grapefruit anymore. So anyway, yeah. In general, if you need a fundraiser, you want to have a fundraiser, talk to the advisor. Advisor needs to talk to Ms. Wilson. That's the flow chart. It's real short and real linear because we want to keep everybody safe and out of trouble. Thank you for coming over here.
That was
just wanted to make sure we got it right. Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. So it is now 8:55 because we didn't get started until like 8:15, and then y'all asked some real good questions. So real quick, last call. Thank you again to all of you. It really is my pleasure to be here. As always, if you need something, please email your counselor or administrator. You're also welcome to email me. I have my mug, cpatent2@wcpss.net. And yeah, we love you all. Countdown to spring break is 2.5 weeks. And then, guys, we come back from spring break and year's over. You're going to come back from spring break. You're going to have three weeks of regular classes. For juniors and seniors, when AP and IB exams start, like the year is almost done for juniors and seniors come May 1st. So just know that time keeps on slipping into the future. Does it slip into the future or into the past? Was that lyric wrong? I don't know. I love you all. I'm going to go and listen to that song now to figure out what I'm thinking about. Have a wonderful Wednesday and a great week.